This is usual webcast series, streaming to you live and free from our new home here at Barangaroo Studios. It's great to have your company. Today's webcast is the second in this hard-hitting series of live and digital events specifically designed to help you unpack the business solutions needed to survive the COVID-19 crisis. Now, we understand many of you are really struggling. Some businesses have even been forced to halt operations altogether. So, even though these tips and discussions are specifically for businesses that have pivoted and adapted to a remote working model, the advice we're sharing with you all here today can easily be applied once you're back up and running again, and hope that happens really soon. Now, if you missed last week's webcast on business continuity, which was the first in the series, thanks to our webcast partners DocuSign, it's available to watch on demand right here on the Kochie's Business Builders website. So be sure to catch up on that when you can, so you and your business continues to recover, to adapt, and we really want you to thrive. Today our focus is on business mobility, which we'll be getting stuck into in just a moment. Next week, our expert panel is going to explain how to easily master productivity in this new world of work. And then finally, we'll be analysing what the future of work looks like and what it means for you as small business owners. So make sure you check in with us each week for the rest of this 4-part webcast series, because we've got some pretty amazing experts lined up to share their insights and advice with you all. And if you've got a question for one of the panellists, look, plenty of time for you too. Simply type it into the box at the bottom of your video player there on your screen, because we'll be taking questions at the end of the discussion, which we are really raring and ready to get into. Here with me today, live in the studio, to discuss business mobility and whether mobility and flexibility is the new normal, Anthony Slater, Director, Customer Success for APAC at DocuSign. Anthony, good to see you.
Great to see you.
And feeding in on Skype is Tiffany, Canva's General Manager of Enterprise Partnerships and Business Operations. Tiffany, welcome to you.
Hello. Great to be here with you.
And joining us from Melbourne is Imogen, Randell, Chief Executive of Quantum Market Research and Hall & Partners. So great to have your company. Imogen, we might kick off with you. Your company has been right there with its finger on the pulse in terms of recording the changes that are occurring right across Australia right now. Tell us a little about the research you're doing.
Thanks, Kochie. Yes, we've been measuring cultural change in Australia for the last 35 years. We realised early on with this pandemic that we had enormous change. So we switched to running a 5-day-a-week, 300 interviews a day, so 200 interviews around Australia every week, to really understand what was happening, what people. Obviously, with the kind of this pandemic, we were feeling quite worried with people. But we also wanted to check on how government's faring, how businesses are coping, and then also what we see as the issues when we get lockdown, how we come out of it. So we've got our finger on the pulse of what's going on. Some of our latest data this week is really some things around what does it look like. As we've gotten through this health crisis, we started to now turn our attention to it. So that's what we're covering this week.
Okay. How exactly has COVID-19 changed the way Australians are doing business?
Yeah, so that's really quite an interesting part of it, because initially when we went into the lockdown, we stayed at home and we saw our run on toilet paper and spending a lot of money on hoarding. But as this has sort of flattened out and we've worked together to flatten the curve, we're now coming back out. One of the key things consumers look for from is being safe, being a safe kind of place where we come back out and spend some money. Obviously, we've seen businesses have to adapt really quickly, from accommodation, travel, and everybody shutting down and standing, to the other businesses like we're all working from home now. So many of us were working from home. Actually, we sort of kept on this periodically with our social scan, and we saw that in 2019 we had 9%.
Imogen, your Skype is getting a bit muffled there. Can you just move a bit closer to your computer, because
Yeah, sure.
that might be, that sounds a lot better. That's it? Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Perfect. Sorry about that. No, that's okay. So when we checked on the trends in 2019, half of us were working from home 1 day a week. Now, in this pandemic where everybody's been at home, it's grown to 69% of people with surveyed is working from home. That's a lot of people working from home. So then we've checked on what that impact of that has been. There's some surprising results. I'm sure people think
Yeah.
the productivity's gone up. They're
Okay.
spending time with family. They're sitting at home and reconnecting. They're having
Yep.
meals around the table. They're doing puzzles. All of these sort of little upsides have really made people think about what does my workplace look like?
Yep.
To that.
Yep. And we are eating a lot more at home, and it's changing the way we live. Anthony, DocuSign's business model is all about mobility and flexibility.
Yeah.
So you guys have been doing it forever anyhow. In your view, will we ever go back to the norm, or is mobility and flexibility here to stay and the key trend?
I think it is here to stay. I think hopefully things will return more to normal than where they are at the moment, obviously, in terms of everyone from home all the time. We saw some interesting trends. When the COVID crisis first kicked off, companies were scrambling. There was a lot of ingenuity in order to figure out how they can work from home and allow people to still get their job done. They were using technology, using different tactics to make that happen. But they were sometimes figuring out little workarounds, little short-term ways of solving the problem.
Yep.
Now I think people have realised we're not just going to snap back. It's not going to be a case where all of a sudden one day everyone's straight back into the office and straight back into the normal way of doing things. So they're starting to go, okay, how can we make this the new normal for us? How can we make these processes more robust, more successful for us, and really have a business that can thrive and survive in conditions where social distancing is a thing here to stay for at least the next few years. So businesses that are taking this opportunity to think of that framework, how can we get our goals accomplished, and how can we make our staff and our customers happy in this new environment? They're, I think, the ones that are going to be thriving in the years to come.
And also, for your sort of continuity plan as a business today, it's been a bit of a wake-up call, hasn't it? Because, yes, we're starting to get a bit back to normal, restrictions are being eased, but in the back of their mind, even the chief medical officers are saying, if we have a second wave, we've got to go back again. So
that's right.
You've almost got to use this as an opportunity to build into your culture of your workforce. Hey, if we've got to go back and work from home, no big deal.
Yeah.
We've done it before. We've improved systems better.
Exactly. You have that flexibility. You've got that robustness into the systems, the processes, the people. Yeah. So, if you thought, I'll just sit out for, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and then it'll all snap back, I think you're going to setting yourself up for a hard time. Instead, going, you know what, this is going to be the way things are going in the future. So how can we adapt to this new environment, and how can we make sure that we're best equipped to deal with that? And look, there's a bit of a silver lining here as well. Employees have always been saying that they wanted that ability to work from home. They wanted that flexibility. It's obviously tough at the moment with no daycare and schools, etc. But this might actually be a better outcome long term for a lot of individuals and employees.
Exactly. We try to get a better line from Imogen, so bear with us while we can. But Tiffany, Canva has undergone a huge and very successful cultural shift by adopting a flexible and mobile workforce right around the world. Tell us what you've done.
The transformation has been quite rapid for us. We've had a really interesting experience that basically played out with the global picture as COVID unfolded. Our China office first went into lockdown at the beginning of the year, which ultimately translated into all of our other teams, Manila, here in Sydney, as well as in the US. So we've had to make a lot of quick decisions around how to set everybody up for success in that whether we have working set up, interesting processes, and how we collaborate virtually. And so we've strived the concept as well on how all of our Canva deal monthly surveys and team events to make sure we can sense of community.
Okay. Anthony, obviously technology has played a crucial role in this, hasn't it? And really focused us going forward. Enabling businesses you've got to think about the type of technology you need now and whether it's up to scratch.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that businesses, should go through if they haven't already. So first of all, think about what are the key tasks that you perform in your business, which things can be potentially done remotely or with technology, and then what technology can fill those gaps. And we're not talking anything amazing. It can be, as simple as literally telephones, Skype type calls or Zoom, instant messaging. How do you handle your agreements and contracts? That's obviously what we do at DocuSign in terms of e-signature. Think through those things and then choose the technology if you haven't already to go in there. But the story doesn't end there. I mean, choosing the technology and purchasing it's one thing. How are you going to enable and train and make your customers and staff comfortable with the new way of doing business?
Yep.
So that enablement piece is really important to seeing success. So we recommend, choosing vendors that have good online learning, tip sheets, materials, joining webinars like this and other online resources. As a business owner, get yourself familiar and comfortable with it, and you lead from the front in terms of helping your team understand this new technology. Fingers crossed, most technology these days, relatively easy to use once it gets up and going. So take a bit of that in time, treat it as an investment, because I think you won't regret it when it comes to being able to help troubleshoot issues as they come along, help your customers if they have to now log into an online system to do their gym workout, or if they need to sign a contract. Take that quick moment to show them how to do it, and you're really setting yourself up to thrive in this new economy.
And you're quite right, putting the effort. I must admit, I had to sign my BAS from the accountant the other day, and they emailed it over, and I used to have to sign it and then drop it back in. I said, can you just DocuSign it to me? And I'll do it online. And they went, you want to do it that way all the time? I said, yes, I don't want to walk down and drop it into you anymore.
That's right.
So we did it at the start of this. I thought, I'm not going back.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, people, look, they don't have access to printers. They don't want to have to pop into their house to do something basic. So I think finding those opportunities to go digital is just going to have a big advantage and a better customer experience. You're right. I mean, I'm going through sort of a home buying process at the moment. The number of forms and things I've got to fill out, I'm taking photos of it with my phone and emailing.
It's ridiculous.
No, I haven't got time for that anymore.
Well, I used up my free trial, so I had to subscribe.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been using it so much, which is great. Tiffany, you've experienced it firsthand. So in your view, what's the best way businesses can set up employees at home efficiently? Because this is also an employer's responsibility. I think this is the great unknown for a lot of employers going forward, their responsibilities to their employees at home.
Absolutely. So at Canva, for us, we've really come out with 3 guiding. First piece is well-being. Second is supporting our community. And the third piece is rallying together. So what these at the back of the line has helped us to really support our employees very deliberately and with intent. So basic foundations of making sure you can work, such as having a desk, internet access, try to recreate a sense of community and support our local businesses at the same time too. So for example, we usually have lunch in the office, been supporting our local farmers with grocery in lieu of lunch. And we've also deeply explored our technology capability, so we can continue to help customers. So be it such as DocuSign that can be accessed anywhere, to Zoom capabilities, so we can experience company rituals like an opener, which is our kickoff, and heck, we've all even found new ways of using Canva too as well. It's been a wonderful collaborative experience altogether that we're experiencing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Anthony, is it about replicating work at home for employees?
Yeah.
Do you think? Or is it saying, hey, you can never replicate it, but it's just got to be different?
I think there's a few different phases. So the first phase often that most companies were in before this virus was they weren't like doing anything conscious or anything deliberate to allow work from home, but people have mobile phones and iPhones. They could probably keep things moving if they had to work from home one day, answer a couple of emails, take a couple of calls. The next phase is that phase of, we actually need to be at working from home more. How can we set up an at-home environment that is similar to the office environment? So they have working hours, they have a few tools, Slack, Zoom, DocuSign, things set up in order to sort of replicate that. But they're still holding on to some of the old things they used to have in the office, like you should be working 9 to 5. Some companies are like, we're going to have a check-in call at 9, 12, and 4, because they kind of want to make sure people are working and they're sitting behind their desk. And that's fine. A lot of companies are in that point. But I think the next phase is there's some advantages that can come from having that remote working that actually aren't possible in an office. So there was a few examples that, for example, I had we were running a client call the other day. So we had a few people from DocuSign, a few people from the client. And normally in those meetings, if they're face-to-face, one person's kind of taking notes and everyone else is making eye contact that whole time. What we did this instead was we had a shared Google Doc and everyone could add notes as the call was going on to that same document. You get a really clear sense of where the meeting's progressing, what topics haven't been covered yet, people's understanding that we're all on the same page. Then we ended at the end with a really good document summarizing that call and our next steps and our action items. It was super clear. Everyone was on that same page. You couldn't really do that in an office environment. And I think there's some of these advantages that do come from setting up for yourself to actually be working better in that remote environment. The other one is things like exercise. I have someone on my team who, if they have 15 minutes before a meeting, they'll do some push-ups, they'll go for a run around, they'll listen to some music.
Pump themselves
up. Which, if you're doing that in an office, it might be a little bit weird, get a few weird looks. So, there's certain things that I think, some freedoms that do come along with remote working. Once our mind shifts to this idea, of like, actually, this is here to stay. So I'm going to buy a lamp so I look good on video conference. I'm going to buy a proper audio headset, so that the audio is coming through clear. All those sorts of things start to make a difference and really, I think, take it to that next level where the disadvantages of working remotely, come down and the advantages go up.
Yeah, and also making sure you've got the right data. Feeds and, maybe pay for the NBN to come in and go to your front door and all that sort of thing.
I saw this interesting study that was saying that on video conferencing, if you've got a slower internet connection and there's even a 1 second delay, people rate the trustworthiness and the friendliness of the person they're talking to much lower, because in a social environment, every time I finish talking, if you just stared at me for a second before responding, I'd start to feel awkward and strange. So those little things that if you are dealing with clients and you haven't got the great internet, it's worth the investment, and it's worth the investment in the proper audio and the video, etc. Because there's little psychological things we're used to from person-to-person interaction cross over into the digital world.
Because in business, you've got great connections. At home, as we're experiencing with Imogen and Tiffany, often you don't have the same connections, and maybe employers have got to step up and say, right, we've got to make sure your wireless set up at home
100%
is absolutely crystal clear.
We were very lucky at DocuSign. There was a little allowance was given to each employee to make sure they had the proper setup, even ergonomics and things, right? If you've got someone sitting at a kitchen table all day to work and start getting back problems, that could be a problem for you as an employer. People, so it's worth saying, okay, get a proper desk, proper chair, a monitor so your neck's not bad.
Right.
But to your point earlier about the connectivity, this is one of the other big things that I've noticed as well is when you're in an office, you can get a pulse check, you walk around the office, you see people's body language, you have a quick hello, you walk to get a coffee together. All those soft interactions can be stripped out when it comes to virtual working. So as a leader or a business owner, find opportunities to inject some of that soft conversation in there. Start the meeting with a quick, how was your weekend even? We sometimes do personal or professional win. It gives people the opportunity. They don't have to share about their weekend if they don't want to, but they can share something professional that they've achieved or that's going on.
That's a good idea.
And it just brings a bit of that connectivity. As Tiffany was talking about, other opportunities like happy hours, a chance to have a drink with people.
Pub quiz.
Feels weird the first time, but eventually you kind of settle into it, and it's good fun. You don't have to travel.
It's funny, we've done the pub quiz here, and some you've got to wear a funny hat, all that sort of stuff, so it works well. Tiffany, have we still got you there with your connection?
Still,
Good. What about people working in the business? How does this new experience affect long-term employees? And do you give them a bit of a manual on, if you like, and tips on how to work from home, how to structure your day, how to get yourself mentally right?
Yeah, so being empathetic is a huge element for us in terms of keeping very much no matter what environment we are in. So going forward, also give me something for us that we think that whatever happens after this, we're going to try and be able to more forward thinking as much as possible. So we've done things like constantly sending out different email communication styles into Slack versus Confluence and email, and so adjust those different lines, and also having the different forums and brown bags as well, so we can continue to figure out what our best practices across the board.
Okay.
But going back to our 3 guiding principles we have, right, we're also on users and thinking about customers as well, because we're very, very lucky at continuously growing business and are thankful, and so want to be really mindful of what others are also going through as well. And so as a result, we strive to take this approach to help partnering with folks, World Health Organization or UN institutions, airlines, COVID-related information to enterprise COVID offers.
Tiffany, you're starting to break up again, so we'll come back to you shortly, see if we can get that line to improve. Anthony, other clients of DocuSign, what have you noticed? The best ones, what sort of tips are you picking up from them who are handling it well?
Yeah, in terms of that working from home side, I think your staff and your team and your customers are probably the most important things at the moment. So keep in touch with your staff on a regular basis, keep in touch with your customers, see how they're feeling, check in with them, what's working for them, what's not. So we've run some surveys internally with our staff to check in just on how they're feeling, you know, how are you going in this situation. We've actually given a little bit of extra time off to make sure people are, even though you can't go out on a massive holiday at the moment, still stepping away from the computer, taking some time with the family. Because I think at the beginning there's a bit of novelty, everyone's working from home, and we actually found productivity was pretty good, right, going up. That burnout can come in, you know, people, you wake up in the morning, and even though we don't love our commute, it's still, you're still outside, you're still getting a coffee on the way to the bus, you're still outdoors, and you're dressed and you have a shower.
And you know it's ready for work.
You know you're ready for work, right? There's a clear delineation. When people wake up and they're, you know, helping the kids quickly get ready for, you know, homeschooling, whatever it is, then they're at work and they're straight back and forth between. We started to see some of that mental fatigue come in for people, and some of our clients were saying the same thing. So trying to say, look, take time away, keep your communications, if as a business owner, keep them to those business channels, you know, email, Slack, or whatever messaging you're using. Try not to be texting people outside of business hours. Try to limit even your emails outside of business hours to encourage that idea of you're not working 24 hours a day, you're not always on call. You've got those opportunities to separate work and life, even though you're in the same room where your kids are playing, you're also having a really important client call. Try as much as you can to separate that for people. I think is going to pay dividends because, like I said, this is probably not going to be something we're snapping back in 2 months. This is going to be largely the new normal for a while. So you need to run the marathon, not run the sprint when it comes to this.
Because in the early days, those Zoom or Slack video conference calls or Skype were quite exotic and exciting.
Different
and
background.
Now you're going, at the end of the day, you're going, I don't want another Zoom call, even with my family and friends. I just want to get off the screen.
Well, it's funny, in a conference room, if you're in a meeting, there's one person talking, you're sort of aware people are looking at that person talking and that person. With Zoom, you don't know, your face is staring at the camera. You don't know who's looking at you at what point. It's actually, I found a bit more mentally exhausting because you're on video the whole time. You're not sure if you're on display, if you're on show. So I used to be, and I still am, a big proponent of using camera, but don't make it mandatory, I think, for your team. There's going to be times when people just want to be able to look away, want to be able to look up at the sky to think for a moment. They want to walk around their room to help them think. So allow some of that flexibility.
I'm pretty old school guy. Put your camera on, I want to know where you are, sort of.
Are you wearing pants? I want to check you're wearing pants right now. Exactly. So I'm sort of in 2 minds about that. And I think as we move to that, you know, I know some of the, you know, some people on my team, they haven't had a chance to, you know, do their hair or have the shower in the way they wanted to. They wanted to quickly join that call. No judgment. Like, you know, we're all dealing with a pretty stressful situation at the moment.
Is it a generational issue between employees as well?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I used to work at LinkedIn, and then we were acquired by Microsoft. And LinkedIn was all about video cameras. Then Microsoft just weren't. And so we'd be on calls and we're all on video and they weren't. And so I think different organizations have different cultures in regards to that sort of stuff. And it could be a generational thing as well. Some of the more senior guys at DocuSign are a little bit more reluctant on their cameras sometimes. So I'll call them out now on footage while I can.
Right.
So yeah, I think it is, but we're all getting there. My next door neighbor is in her 70s and she's now set up with a proper lamp and the camera and she's killing it with the video work from home side of stuff. So it's in anyone's capability and there are resources to help you. I mean, we have resources on the DocuSign site, but all your different technology providers, they luckily have stepped up to the plate and how-to guides, simple starter guides, if you're a bit daunted.
See, and I think it's up to us as employers to give tips and guidance in this area as well.
Yeah.
What expectations are,
Yep.
what we want to happen, behaviour on
and communication. Like because pre-COVID, sounds like with pre-COVID versus post-COVID, but pre-COVID where some people would work remotely or from home, some of the common feedback we'd hear would be, I'm out of the loop. Like I'm not in the office when that thing gets announced or when that conversation is taking place. So I need to go into the office at least 2 days a week, or I just feel like I'm missing out. Well, now that everyone's working from home, the onus is on leadership and businesses to make that communication accessible to everyone. You can't just gather around the water cooler and make a quick announcement. So your email and your writing skills actually become really important. Things like Slack checking in with quick short messages become really important as well. Keep people on the same page and set clear expectations. We're looking for this to be done by the end of the week. If you just say get this done, some people are going to feel that pressure. I've got to prove I'm working, I better get this done tonight in between dinner. It's like, no, we've got till Friday. Take your time. If you don't get it done today, tomorrow's no problem.
And also to talk to each other as well. Sort of get out of the habit of saying, oh, I didn't know because somebody else was handling it. Well, send them a message and ask the question. As
a business owner or a manager, you don't want to be the bottleneck of information where everyone feels like they need to come to you and you need to be disseminating as the grand wizard of all information. Because just like in an office, if I didn't know something, I'd turn to the person next to me and say, hey, how do you log into that system? Or where did you go for that? Or what did they say in that meeting? So try to set up those interpersonal connections within your team as well, if possible. So for example, on my team, I set up every new starter with a buddy. And they actually do a lot of the bulk of the lifting of that new onboarding experience. I set them up with someone in another office as well to reach out to, so they've got someone outside that they can chat to get another perspective. So you can do that on a smaller scale as well, and try to have people answer their own questions within the team as well. They feel like they're getting the message from more people. As a leader, you're not feeling the pressure of 12 people coming to you with every question. They're actually helping themselves and feeling empowered themselves, and you're creating a more matrixed structure, but I think it's more flexible and spreads the knowledge better.
Responsibilities I think this is the new minefield going forward for employers about what happens to your staff at home. What's that? I don't think it's been tested yet. What if a staff member trips over a cord and injures themselves, or spills hot water on them when they're making a cup of tea? That delineation between what's a workplace and not, I think is going to be really tested.
Definitely. Pre-COVID, when people would request to work from home, we'd do an audit of their home workplace to make sure that it was safe, they had the right chair, etc. We've had to be flexible in these circumstances. But we're having to be flexible with some of our staff are fairly junior. They're house sharing. They've got 3 flatmates who are all working from home as well. There's there's one living area. They're in each other's bedroom. So, it's like, it's not conducive. I'm curious as well, and we were chatting before the show around we're house hunting at the moment, and it's like the idea of having a home office, even if we have to move further out of the city, is becoming such a critical thing now because, it's a nice to have, and obviously not everyone can have it, but if you can designate a separate space or an area that's a little bit separate where you've got your own thing, it helps separate that idea of work and home life, and I think gives you that mental space.
And a good thing with technology of setting up staff at home too is this, a lot of the services are now on a monthly fee for service, isn't it? Rather than big capital outlays to set someone up at home. And I reckon that just transforms the decision for employers to say, right, I'm going to make the investment here.
Yeah, this idea of the monthly subscription versus
paying
something
OPEX rather than CapEx.
That's right, exactly. That's it. It takes away the risk, puts the risk in the hands of the vendor in terms of they need to be proving value to all the time. I mean, my team at DocuSign, we're called Customer Success. The only reason we exist is to make sure customers are happy and getting value. Right. We're not measured on sales or anything else. It's just about, are you happy and getting value? Because as a recurring revenue business, we need people to stay with us, and they're going to stay with us if they're getting value. So. And the product features that we roll out at DocuSign and other SaaS companies, we get the scale of hundreds of thousands of customers across the world. So when we roll out a new product feature, an individual is going to get access to that feature, but not have to pay for it. So that's why some of these market leaders, I think, are doing so well in this SaaS space. And it, as you said, the free trial side, we're offering free trials. Other companies are as well. It's a great way to dip your toe in the water and see how it's going.
And build a habit.
Yeah, that's right.
In customers, which is really important.
Yeah.
Hey, let's start getting into some of your questions that you've sent through. And Anthony, this one from Luke. Any tips you can share for small business owners to stay informed of how their team or company is performing throughout this period?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I mean, understanding how your team is performing was obviously always an important thing pre-COVID as well. But having that regular touch point, I think, is one quite easy way to do it. Even the most low-tech way that I do with my team is I have a Google sheet where we have each week people just share either any wins they've had that week, any challenges they're facing that week, or anything they think that we need to be aware of. The good thing is it's accessible to the rest of the team as well. So often if someone has something where they say, not sure how this is working, someone else can jump on it and answer it. Right. And having that regular touch point. We have you know, weekly team meetings. I have weekly one-on-one with my team. So I think those sorts of just keeping in touch and trying to replicate what you would normally do in an office, but virtually, is one of the major things I think that's going to help out there.
Yeah, and we also get people to fill in harvest on what they've been doing during the day and which projects, how many hours for costing basis.
Great,
and that's really helpful too in keeping track of
of what people are doing. That's right. I mean, the most sophisticated ones, people are logging things in Salesforce and timesheets and things, but it's going to depend on your business. But yeah, making sure that as a leader, you find that habit and that routine for yourself and for your team as well is going to help you jump on things before they become big issues.
Chris has sent a question in saying, I want to be as flexible as possible about my employees managing kids at home while working, but how can I be sure work is not being affected?
Yeah. Look, it probably will be affected a little bit, to be honest. I think what's unusual about this time is daycares, you know, being open, but sometimes people not feeling comfortable, and school and things like that as well. So I think there does need to be some flexibility at the moment. But one of the ways around that is that idea of moving away from this idea of I need you to be at your desk from 9 till 5. You know, that was the idea that came from the old factory models of you'd have your open factory and people work for this number of hours and we know that you're working. I think for most knowledge workers, we should be outcomes and objectives focused. So it's like, I'd like this piece of work done. It's due in 2 weeks. If someone wants to do it after the kids have gone to bed, or they want to do it while their baby's napping, or they want to do it in between, I think allowing them to have that flexibility. But I think there is probably going to have to be, you know, timelines will probably have to be a little bit longer for the meantime, because we're just in this reality at the moment. We're in this together, as they say. So there's going to have to be a little bit of that flexibility. But it's also a good time for you to set up that framework of, okay, how do I monitor, you know, whether it be sales or customer satisfaction or other metrics as well, leading metrics of potential problems that could be coming. If the customer satisfaction starts dropping, dig into it now. Don't wait for that customer to leave you and then you're suddenly panicking about how that happened.
All right, next question. What are your tips? And if you want to put a question, don't forget, go to the box, dialogue box at the bottom of your screen there. What are your tips for fostering resilience amongst remote teams? I'm concerned at the impact the pandemic is having on mental health for my staff. And that's probably, we were talking before about Zoom meetings and all that sort of stuff. But it's a bit broader, isn't it? It's how you're coping with not seeing family or not seeing elderly parents or grandparents or not being able to travel anywhere or, or at one stage in a park. It's more a social stress.
Yeah, I agree, and there's no easy answers here, right? And fingers crossed things do start to improve for us. But a few things that I've seen that may help a little bit. I've seen some people have a run club amongst their employees, so they sort of challenge each other to some sort of fitness exercises in terms of number of kilometres walked, as a way to sort of encourage people to leave that, you know, take that meeting on the road or take an opportunity to walk. I do walking meetings with my team, so no camera. I'll walk around the suburb while I'm catching up with them, so I'm outdoors. Sometimes that's the only outdoor time that I get. That can help. The other thing that that I was doing is around just offering some extra time off for people, even if it's not counted towards their paid time off, in terms of saying, look, if you get a sense that someone in your team is struggling a little bit, say, look, take the afternoon off, take a day off, just take a breather, step away, because, you know, talent for most organizations, team members are the most important asset you have. You need to hold on to them.
Okay. All right, we might see if Imogen and Tiffany can turn their cameras off and we can just see if the audio is a lot clearer without the camera. Because we're struggling with their internet connection, so if you turn the camera off, hopefully it doesn't take as much data. Tiffany, how do you foster resilience amongst your teams working remotely?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So I think we've had fantastic leadership at Canva from Mel, Cliff, and Cam.
Okay.
Really stepped
All right.
up.
I think so.
Sorry,
Worth a
ladies.
shot.
You start off strong, and then it garbles, and so we'll have to leave it there. But appreciate it. That's one of the issues of working at home.
That's
I suppose
right.
as well, is getting those Skype connections right, and we've got to invest in that. Another question coming in, Anthony, any advice on digital tools to manage productivity so my team can get on the same page when running multiple projects? It's harder now, we aren't together.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Slack is a tool that we use a lot, and the good thing about Slack is, so obviously there's lots of chat apps out there, so you can have a chat app like WhatsApp or anything in terms of one-to-one communication. What Slack offers, and I'm not affiliated with Slack in any way, but you can create channels and working groups where you can be working on the same project together, and you can have a few people in that channel to work on that client issue and a few people over here. So that's one thing that I've found that's good. Obviously, CRMs and things like Salesforce and stuff do allow that. There's a little bit more investment in terms of getting those set up. But even if from the lower budget side of things, shared Google Docs and things as well, where multiple people can access things and work on a document or a presentation together. Is great, and you can definitely join a video conference call, be working on the document together. Pretty quickly, you feel like you're sitting next to them and you're both working on the document at the same time. You don't feel the pressure to be just talking the whole time. You're just working away at your own thing. A question comes up, you help answer their question, you keep going. Things like that can help. But yeah, look, there is some adaptability here. It's not going to replicate the exact experience of sitting next to someone in an office, but those sorts of things can help for sure.
And as you said before, really, to get people used to it and cut down the intimidation of using these sorts of technologies, make it fun, make sure there's proper training and onboarding. So people feel comfortable from the start, because anyone who's not comfortable with technology these days or has a mental block and says, oh, I don't understand technology, you're just not going to be able to do your job. It's a demand for everyone these days to continually learn. And
as you're making these technology decisions, every business needs to make their own decision about which technology they want to use. I was helping my wife's a psychologist. I was helping her get set up for telehealth and working from home. And I just went for the market leader in various categories, because I know that Xero does accounting well. I know Zoom does video. I know DocuSign does e-sign very well. I know they're going to have the resources. I know they're going to have the scale. I know they're going to have the self-learning. Now, you may be able to find sometimes there's a cheaper option for some of those things out there, but it's really how much time you can invest on solving those technology problems when they come up, or troubleshooting if there's an issue, or what product features it may or may not have. So if you're in doubt, in general, the market leading ones, they've just got the resources to invest in that learning and that training and that ease of use. We have a thing called DocuSign University, where we have a lot of live webinars every single week you can join and speak to a human and get that training, tip sheets, etc. And we found that really useful during this COVID time across the globe, where we've been able to really get some customers from not feeling like they couldn't do business in this world to actually thriving and finding it a lot better very quickly. So.
It is a mindset, isn't it? It's a mindset that says to yourself, to be relevant and to stay relevant, I've got to learn this, and I've got to learn it enthusiastically.
Yes.
And it all comes almost, I'm going to sound like a yogi instructor, I suppose. It all comes from within, doesn't it? That confidence and want to do it.
There's a bit of that forcing function of the COVID crisis, in terms of a lot of our customers we were speaking to had plans to do various things, but there was, maybe next quarter, or we will get there. To all of a sudden, we had some big organizations contact us on a Sunday. They needed it set up by the Tuesday. Massive, projects, and we managed to turn it around for them, because that forcing function of, we need to do this, otherwise we may not survive. I mean, I've been amazed.
Or it's got to cost you money.
It was going to cost you money, yeah. The ingenuity, though, and the flexibility of the Australian business community has been amazing during these times. Like,
so what have you said?
Well, I've got a friend who runs a yoga studio up in Newport, Flo, and he, all of a sudden, the shutdown's coming, right? He's got people, he's not going to have anyone in his yoga studio. He instantly was setting up, similar to this, the live streaming cameras, proper lights, a new subscription model that people could pay $10 a week to get, live streaming. And he was turning this around in days and reaching out and using tools on the internet and friends to be set up with a live streaming yoga. And the strength of the community around his business, they all banded in and said, we're not going to reduce our spend. We're going to stay with our subscriptions to help the business through. I mean, good on you. Like it's stressful and it's hard work, but turning things around super quickly, you get the advantages.
He's between the chemist and the Thai restaurant.
Yeah,
Newport.
Exactly.
I was wondering what he was doing in there. So he's setting up for.
Yep.
There you
You
go.
know the one.
That is a small world.
Yeah.
Our final question. Thank you for sending them all through. What's your number one piece of advice for team leaders managing a remote workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, that's the exact situation I've found myself in at the moment. And I think, look, as I've said it before, but having a bit of that flexibility and compassion for your team, you never know. Like I've got 2 young children at home, right? So sometimes I'll be on a conference call, there's a bit of screaming, a bit of noise in the background. And luckily my manager and others are accommodating and understanding of that. That makes a big difference. Yep. Touching base in those informal ways, team drinks via Zoom or other video conferencing options and things are really important. And, you know, trying to keep that sort of bit of drumbeat of that momentum. You know, sometimes when people have a place to go every day, like the office, they're in their routines, all of a sudden their routines are changed, their habits are changed. There's going to be some adjustment period, and keeping that flexibility and that understanding, I think, is really going to be important. And working with your team, asking them what will make this easier for you. Is there anything else I could be doing? Is there, you know, any feedback for me? And keeping that continual loop happening, and you'll adjust and flow and get through this.
Great advice. Mate, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that's all we had time for. So thanks so much to our expert panel for joining us today. Anthony from DocuSign, who's carried the load here today, which is fabulous, mate. Just some terrific tips. Tiffany Tai from Canva, along with Imogen and Randell from Quantum Market Research. Thanks to them. Unfortunately, because of the technology these days and Skype and the dependability of the platform, it was only an intermittent discussion, but we thank them for their time and can't wait to get back to a period where we can have all panels in the studio, which would be great. Thanks also to all of you who have joined us here today. Don't forget to sign up for next week's webcast, in which we'll be talking about how to master productivity in the new world of work. And if you want more information and resources to help you survive in the post-COVID-19 era, keep checking out the KBB website, as well as DocuSign's COVID-19 page on their website. Until then, hope you all continue to recover, adapt, and most importantly, thrive. Have a great day.